initial expectation for The Last of Us was already greatness. In the beginning, I thought it would kind of be this under-the-rug project Sony made. But when I saw the VGX trailer and I saw a Naughty Dog in it, I literally freaked out.
The way Last of Us started did things a little differently than most games in that it hit you with a feel bomb right away, but the way it was timed and handled was just excellent. You know, a lot of games, they usually try to ramp up to some early on tragic event after the first couple hours of gameplay, so there's some kind of build up to it. Other times that there's a tragic event in history, it's usually just talked about for the character, it's not something you actually see happen. Whereas Last of Us just throws you into this tragic moment right away. It doesn't really give you much time to really prepare yourself for it. And then it time skips right away to the main game. And I think that was a really excellent idea because it sets the tone for the rest of the experience.
The first 15 minutes of the game, you're playing as Joel's daughter, and you know what's going to happen. Obviously, she's not going to survive this. You expect her to die, but even then, the moment she dies, you don't really see it coming, or you don't expect it that way. And despite you knowing it's gonna happen, you're still just as shocked as if you didn't know it was gonna happen. And it just resonates with you the entire rest of the game. It sets the mood for what The Last of Us is, a dark, gruesome masterpiece.
They're not making you expect this to be a happy game by any means. It's about survival, and not survival in the sense of triumphant and, you know, really feel-good survival. It's really just more of by the skin of your teeth and here's all the terrible, terrible things that happen during and what all the characters have to end up living through. And it also really helps set the tone for Joel, I think. It really explains why he's so jaded right away and really gives players a way to identify with him a lot better. Last of Us has an ending that ties all of its plot threads together in this single moment that is just amazing. You know, from a literary standpoint, in my opinion, that is a great ending. It's not just a good ending, it is an amazing ending. And for the story it tells, it's just perfect for what happens. And that really is what solidified it for me as one of the best games of 2013, definitely.
It makes you question your morals from the very beginning to the end of the game. And essentially you're left wondering what's good, what's bad, and you have to choose whether you're essentially the bad guy or the good guy. And at the end you're left to decide whether your morals are more important than the basic future of humanity.
You know, and it exemplifies something too about Naughty Dog that I really like. The fact that Naughty Dog in a way has really grown up with their audience. You know, if you look back over their gaming catalog over the years, they started off with Crash Bandicoot, which was a very kind of, you know, childish, kiddish game. It fits in the same category as things like Mario or Sonic. It's stuff we played growing up. And as time went on, they started upping it a little bit with Jak and Daxter, where it's still this kind of kid feel, but it's a little more young adult. There's more serious situations being dealt with. There's actually some degree of drama going on. It's not just happy-go-lucky kind of stuff.
Ever since the first Uncharted game, Naughty Dog has been going for stronger narratives in their games, and with The Last of Us, they essentially perfected it in my eyes. The game is amazing, it's violent and graphic, it sends you on an emotional roller coaster, but the game itself is just beautiful.
And then we move on to the PS3 era where they start doing Uncharted, which is this whole sort of adventure movie, Indiana Jones feel. You know, there's people dying left and right, there is some very serious moments to the story, but there's still this very kind of grand sense of adventure and almost sort of like sunny lens that everything's being told through. And then you get to The Last of Us, which is really their most adult game, and one of the most adult games out there. I don't mean adult in the sense of just, you know, there's cursing and violence and blood, but just the tone it has and how it deals with different situations. It's all very serious and all handled in a very mature manner. You know, it's not just non-stop thrills with blowing stuff up or characters having ridiculous catchphrases. There's a very human element to Last of Us that I don't think you get in a lot of other video game storytelling. You know, it's not just this dark storyline about survival. It really does talk a little bit more about humanity than most games do. And that's something we don't see as much. You know, there are some games that deal with this topic, but as far as big budget AAA titles go, The Last of Us really is one of the first ones to deal with it that much. And that really does make it stand out. You know, that's one of the things that made it so incredible.
I think the way we see some 8-bit and 16-bit games now in 2014 is how we're going to see The Last of Us in the coming years as this great, masterful title that you just have to play. even 20, 50 years from now, it's going to go down in history as one of the greatest narratives, and if not the greatest game on the PlayStation 3.
So those of you that never played it on PS3 and are now PS4 owners and are excited for the release of the remaster this coming Tuesday, it's definitely worth checking out. You know, there's a lot of games out there that get hyped up and people get excited about, and then once they get their hands on it, it ends up falling short. Last of Us really isn't one of those titles. So if you missed out your chance on PS3 and you have a PS4, don't miss out. Definitely a game worth playing.